Right. And Dr. Jamil, what's your take on this escalation, especially in the last few days after the killing of course, Hezbollah's spokesman, Muhammad Afif? How do you see, what kind of retaliation are we expecting from Hezbollah, or do you think that the ongoing ceasefire efforts could be bearing any fruit?
Well, ongoing ceasefire effort by the Special Envoy of the United States, Amos, who gives statements that there is a window of opportunity, and he gives a statement that there could be a very close negotiation for the ceasefire. But what are the conditions of ceasefire? As a matter of fact, Security Council Resolution 1701, that's very clear-cut, and Lebanese and Hezbollah both are agreeing to it, that okay, let's revert back to that same Security Council resolution under which the United Nations force and the Lebanese force were deployed towards the northern side of the Israeli border, and they would man the buffer zone of about 30 kilometers so that there is no incursion, and Israel is not really agreeing to it. Israel says that they want in the embedded feature of the ceasefire, that whenever they want, they can move around in Lebanon and hunt for Hezbollah. So that is clear-cut violation of the sovereignty of any country. So I feel that it would be very hard for Lebanese to accept this kind of a condition, and therefore I don't see in the near future any ceasefire, and particularly in the backdrop that Israel now seems that the kind of a deterrence which Iran has been diluted. Iran had posed the deterrence to Israel. That seems to be diluted in the eyes of Israel, and Israel wants to finish its job, as Joe Biden during his campaign said that Israel should finish the job as early as possible, and then of course the other things associated with it. So Israel is now less willing to really accept the risk from any proxy, including Hamas and Hezbollah. Hezbollah, they have tried their best, and they have to a greater extent been able to cause a huge damage to Hamas as well as to Hezbollah. But Hezbollah still has that much of potential. Even Hamas has been firing rockets a couple of days ago, and Hezbollah still have its long-range missiles to retaliate. But that is getting weakened, because of which Israel is getting encouraged. And since there is no higher authority in the nation states, it's only the power which they wield. And the Israelis, they know that they have not only the power, but they have the accumulated power of the United States, where there's a huge deployment in the United States has made an announcement that they would go to any extent to support and to defend Israel. And therefore, they think...
Talking about, of course, role of U.S. in this crisis, Israel. But coming back to you, Dr. Jamil, when we look at inaction of international community, of course, coming to the situation in Lebanon, do you see United Nations playing a more effective role? Because we know a number of resolutions are present. Do you see they are going to be implemented in coming days with the pressure of international community?
If the history is of any example, then in that case, it doesn't seem that the United Nations Security Council resolutions, which was binding on Israel, could be implemented. For example, the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2624 and 2625, it very clearly, and it was unanimously passed, and very clearly it asked Israel to declare a ceasefire. It didn't do that because it was invoked under Chapter 6 of the United Nations Charter. But if it was invoked, if they are serious, if the United States is serious, then in that case they could have invoked Chapter number 7, which means that by force, which means that by deployment of the United Nations force and by seeking the help from other member states. But that would probably doesn't seem to happen in the foreseeable future because Israel has a support of a veto power, not only one but three veto powers: the United States, the UK, the France. So in that case, the answer to your question is doesn't seem possible, at least in foreseeable future. But as I was mentioning, that in the world, in the global politics and the global geopolitics and global power politics, it's basically the nation states. There is no higher authority. So the nation, they start accumulating more and more authorities, more and more power, and there they end up, either they resolve it through the negotiation, or it results into escalation of war. Now, in the Middle East situation, it is slightly different because Israel now feels that they have now been able to address the problem of proxies to a greater extent, and the risk they have neutralized for Israel so far as the horizontal assaults are concerned. But now that gives another dangerous dimension to the entire region, the Middle East dynamics, and that is the vertical dimension of the threat to Israel. Now, Iran has huge capacity and capability in terms of its missiles and in terms of its destructive weapons. If that is used directly, then obviously it's going to spark another issue, and then the assets acquired by the United States can be utilized. And in that case, the China comes in, the Russia comes in. So there could be any dimension to this entire whole scenario. It doesn't seem that it is going to be any time resolved. We are talking about the regional organization, such as the OIC, such as other regional organization. If they could be our friends of Palestine, we have seen the exodus of people on the roads, in favor of Palestine. But the rulers of those countries who matter, they really don't accede to it because Israel has its own influence.
Dr. Jamil, coming back to the ceasefire efforts, every time when there are discussions about a ceasefire or a deal, we know that there is some sticking point from Netanyahu's government. Do you think that this time around, a blue line is going to be a new flashpoint for increase in violence and for the conflict in the region?
That's right, because if they have this plan of expansionism, and if Donald Trump says that he's linking Palestine progress after the conflict is over, and he says just finish it as early as possible, Israel has full support to finish it, and they should finish it. They have the right to defend. And we know what Biden has been saying about it. So both these leaders, they've been supportive of Israel. Trump would be slightly more supportive of Israel because if we see the last previous term of Trump, he had shifted against all the Security Council resolutions, shifted the capital from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and also annexed Golan Heights, which was against the Security Council resolution. This time, now they are intending to annex the West Bank. And the son-in-law of Trump has already announced that Gaza should be bulldozed. It's a very good seafront line. And then there comes another statement from Trump. So what I'm just mentioning here is that your question about the Security Council resolutions being implemented doesn't seem on the horizon that it's going to happen anytime soon. It seems that this could escalate, although Israel has said that we want to give the gift to Trump once he takes over on 31st of January, that we'll have the ceasefire of Lebanon, provided Lebanon is able to agree to the new clause that Israel should have the leverage of operating in Lebanon and operating against Hezbollah. That's right. Lebanon is not agreeing to, and that is realistic.
Right, but at the same time, Dr. Jamil, when we look at the recent situation since you alluded to the U.S. Diplomacy in this regard. We know that Joe Biden has now imposed some sanctions in his last days in office on some of the organizations that were funding the Israeli settlers. How do you view this situation? Do you think that Trump is going to reverse these sanctions imposed on the settler violence?
First of all, it will not be implemented, it seems, and the Trump might as well reverse it as well because of the massive support which Trump and his cabinet, nominated cabinet, by the way, they all are very strong supporter of Israel, and I have all those names available with me, and those names like even their forthcoming Secretary of State. By the way, Blinken had made about 11 trips of peace mission of negotiation, and it was more of a optics. On one hand, Netanyahu and Joe Biden were talking during Netanyahu's last visit to the United States. They were talking about peace, and on the other hand, the C-130s were loaded with the arms ammunition, which was to be transported to Israel. And Israel so far has been supplied 85,000 tons of bombs and explosive and equipment and all those, including the devices and including the projectiles which has the precision for the precision purpose, which has depleted uranium, and depleted uranium has such a devastating effect on the population for several decades in that area. So there are so many devastating offshoot of what is happening around. So Marco Rubio is the next Secretary of State, and if we just read his statement and the support which he's been giving and what he's been saying about Israel, and likewise Petty is the Secretary of Defense, Fox News hawkish anchor and now Secretary of Defense, and so on, and I can name those 7-8 people who have been nominated in the cabinet. So with that cabinet in mind, and with that cabinet forthcoming, and the cabinet which is already here with Joe Biden, and the efforts of Blinken, if we keep all these things in our mind, then it seems very tough to believe that it's going to be peace. Yes, the gift could be given to Trump about the Lebanon peace, if Lebanon agrees to it, and which probably would be a very hard thing for Lebanon to agree. It's a matter of their sovereignty, which is
right, of course. But Basim, when we